Hello and welcome to Seismic Cinema's number. What number are we on now? 4?
Four. Magic number 4.
Magic number 4. So I'm Colin, for those listening for the first time, and I'm joined by.
Paul.
How we doing, Paul? We okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so we've made it to the last chapter of the book of Boba Fett, and I'm quite sad to say that this will be our final Boba Fett review, or will it? Do you think it will be, Paul? Or do you think we'll get more that we could come with?
I think we have plans to do was that an episode ranking with a very special guest.
Yes, so do you want to introduce our special guest, Paul?
Next week we've got, like I said, we mentioned him last week as well. It's Daniel. He's a friend that's been working with us, helping us get most of our channel up running with the artwork side of it, and he's been absolutely fantastic doing everything for free basically, and he really enjoys it using his creativity. So yeah, he's going to do a wee guest spot for us next week because he's just a big a geek as us. It feels like.
Yep, so we're looking forward to ranking and obviously reviewing at the same time the season as a whole. So let's just get right into this episode because there is a lot to discuss.
Yep, lots and lots to discuss. And before we
So
say it,
this, there
wow,
you go, Paul. Sorry.
I'm just going to say, wow, what an episode! But yeah, we've got a lot to discuss about it.
Let's discuss the episode and then we can have maybe a brief wee overall thoughts for the season when we get towards the end, because that will obviously
Yeah.
come naturally. So the episode starts off at the sanctuary, which has just been blown to smithereens in the last episode.
Yep, and this is Boba and Fennec have arrived, and this is their. I think this is when they realize they're actually at war now. This was the first shot in the war, and yeah, they're looking around, seeing the destruction, and that's when Mando, our savior from the last couple of episodes, comes through the door.
Yeah, so we thought maybe some of the residents of the sanctuary might have survived last week, but it seems like they have all perished, including the character played by, I kept getting the name wrong last week, didn't I, Paul?
Yeah, were you saying Jessica Biel?
Yeah, that's actually, is that not the one that's married to Justin Timberlake?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Jennifer Beal, yeah. So
Yeah.
her character is now gone. We think, what's his face? I forgot his name. I really had a blank there.
Who is it you're thinking of?
The musician.
Oh, Max Rebo.
Yes, I think there's rumors that he's got a bit of an inside source, and he knew to not go to the sanctuary that day.
Yeah, I think Max Rebo's just going to be an eternal. He's going to be in everything everywhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up in Mandalorian season 3.
Yep. So Mando's asked if he managed to get the foot soldiers, and he, as far as he knows, he's got Cobb Vanth to agree, but unfortunately, Cobb had a bit of an issue at the end of the previous episode.
Yeah. So as we've seen, Cad Bane gunned them down, but Mando is unawares. So he is very, very, very confident that Cobb Vanth is coming with reinforcements, and tells Boba, and Boba doesn't trust Mando's confidence because without the reinforcements are pretty much doomed. But he also, when they're talking, Mando says the people of Freetown have conditions to abide by for them to help, which is basically stopping the spice running through their territory.
Yeah. Something I noted down from this episode was that they made it very clear to us it's called Freetown now, because Mando jumps in and says it's called Freetown, and then Fennec makes a bit of a obvious comment again, really just emphasising that Mos Pelgo is now called Freetown, so we couldn't really have missed that.
Yeah, it was overemphasized quite a few times.
Yes, very, very in your face.
Yeah.
So the mods, the two main mods, I actually noted down their names, Drash and I couldn't read my writing to be honest for the second one. I put
Was it not
Shab.
Skag?
Right. One of them's definitely called Drash. We'll take your word for the other one. They're basically their original plan, which actually would have made a lot more sense, was to go back to the palace and use that as a fortress in the battle. But they decided to stay at the sanctuary, and again, something we've criticised Boba for a lot in this season is that he basically gives in too easily. I kind of felt that happened again.
Yeah, he did get very very swayed by the mod, but it was quite compelling because he did say basically they wanted to stay because they wanted to protect their people and didn't want to be seen to be running away to their fortress. So
the palace would have made a lot more sense, so wouldn't it, as a place to
yeah,
hole up?
yeah, as a tactical decision, it made all the sense in the world, but as a kind of moral decision, it would probably be the wrong thing to do.
And I
So
suppose being in the town, also in the city, gave them other things that obviously happened later in the episode that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
yeah, so it's all about the hearts and minds of the people.
Yeah. So we've got a lot to get through, so I think we'll crack on. So Cad Bane is in the start of this episode, and he's having a discussion with the leaders of the different factions, and there's quite a big reveal during this meeting.
Yeah, so Cad obviously turns up to the meeting, and the head of the Pike Syndicate in this region drops the revelation that it was the actual fact that it was the Pikes that killed the Tuscans, not the Nicto Speedbikers, as it was previously set up to look like.
I kind of feel that we already knew that. Like, see, thinking back to the episode when they do get killed, I feel like it was kind of obvious now I think about it.
Yeah, because they kind of got killed too quickly without a lot of, I don't know, there wasn't that satisfying feeling of revenge kind of thing. So, yeah, I know what you mean, and I don't know if we talked about it or I'm sure maybe talked about it somebody else anyway. That I thought the Pikes would be behind it and framed the speeders, but speeders
Yeah.
framed the speeders, framed the freed. Oh my god, I can't even speak.
Speak.
And framed the speed bikers. There we go.
We got there eventually.
Yeah.
So they had a wee planning meeting. There's the big reveal about who actually killed the Tuscan Raiders. Then we kind of go on a bit of a segue to a very iconic spaceship arriving at the kind of junkyard.
Yes, the fan favorite R2D2 is piloting the X-wing, and to the crazy mechanic, I cannot remember her name for the life of me.
Oh, I wrote it down.
No, on you go.
Pelimoto.
What was the name?
Pelimoto.
Pelimoto. Right. Okay. I'll just call her crazy mechanic lady. That feels more natural to me.
I was so glad. I don't know about you. See, when it wasn't Luke. See if Luke had showed up, it would have just like been the Luke Skywalker show, a bit like the end of Mandalorian. So I was quite glad when it wasn't Luke piloting the X-wing.
Yeah, it was just a bit. It would have been just overpowered, wouldn't it? If Luke showed up in the middle of Mos Espa. But yeah, it was quite a surprise. At first, I was like, "Who's piloting it?"
But I think it's been shown before that R2D2 can basically pilot the ship.
Yeah,
I'm sure it came up before. So obviously, there's a very special passenger on the ship, which is, I think we weren't sure whether we would find out this soon, but obviously Grogu has made his decision, and he seems to have chosen the armor, or the
the correct decision. You mean?
Yeah. he's decided to come back to Mando instead of staying with Luke Skywalker. And I'm just going to put it out there. As much as I love the scenes that Grogu's in this episode, I feel like it's maybe the wrong decision for him to come back so quickly, and then it kind of cheapens the end of Mandalorian season 2 a wee bit that he's back so soon.
Yeah, I kind of felt like that last week as well when we seen him. I thought we weren't going to see him for a good wee while, but yeah, it did kind of cheapen it for me as well.
It's so hard because you enjoy his scenes. It's impossible not to enjoy the scenes with Grogu and Din, but it's not even season 3. It's not like this is during season 3.
Yeah.
So it's like it's before the season even happens. He's already back with Mando, and I'm not complaining because it is great seeing them together. But I feel like if you'd waited a bit longer, it could have been even more meaningful.
Yeah, and just a wee kind of side note as well, like, why did R2-D2 trust the crazy mechanic lady and not to drop him off there and like just basically trust that she was above board?
Yeah, because Mando never really passed that information on to anybody.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't think so, unless that's his next of kin.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, the next bit I've got down is that there is a sort of planning meeting where, remember we spoke last week about show don't tell?
Yes.
They basically showed and told us exactly who was where. So, like, I don't know, how did you find that? But do you think it'd been better just to show us where the people were instead of kind of saying so and so is here, so and so is here? Or did you think that was helpful?
Well, it was a wee bit of an exposition dump, but
yeah,
I didn't mind it as such because you get a clear picture of what's happening, why they're there, and basically what they're hoping to do. So basically, they have the mods patrolling Mos Espa, but they have all their main players kind of positioned strategically around Mos Espa.
Yeah, I've actually made a note of who was where. Have you got that, or do you want me to share it?
Oh, of course I did.
But did you or not?
I did.
Oh, okay. You got that then?
So at the starport in the I always say that's wrong, the Clintonian district, we have the Gamorrean guards. So they're waiting to see if any pikes come off the ships. We have Black Chrysanthemum, who is now referred to as Santo by Boba and Fennec. Personally, I think it should be called Santa because Santo doesn't sound like Chrysanthemum, but that's just my personal opinion. He is in the Trandoshan district where the municipal offices are. And
it's a bit dangerous putting a Wookiee in the middle of the Trandoshans after what happened a few episodes ago.
Yeah, I was thinking he'd just be standing there ripping arms off random people.
Yeah.
And the mods are patrolling the Aqualish district. So they've all met up at the Aqualish district. So the plan was for everybody to basically survey the area, and if they see any pikes coming, they could pivot their strength to wherever the pikes were attacking from, and then just wait out for the reinforcements from Freetown arriving. That was the plan, at least.
I'm going to be honest, I called back when he first called this kind of truce with the different factions. It was so obviously going to come back to haunt them, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah. it was
very
just
telegraphed.
Yeah, they couldn't have, like you're saying, telegraphed it more obviously.
So
but
just before
we'll get to
that. We're just one step ahead there. So the next thing to talk about is the first Cad Bane meeting with Boba Fett.
Yes, and can I just say, like, I've seen Bad Batch. I've not seen Clone Wars written, but I still think the live action Cad Bane looks like really, really good.
Yeah.
And even like his facial animations and things like that. Like, I think it just looks spot on.
He's quite intimidating, I find.
Yeah, he is. And he's got a cool voice, but it's just me.
So Boba Boba's inside the sanctuary, and then my personal least favorite character from the show, the mayor's major domo,
Yeah, he's quite annoying.
he basically says that there's someone outside to talk to him.
Oh no, that was the droid.
The droid?
Yeah, mind Fennec's like, oh, nobody can sneak up on us because we've got all these we've got all our spies everywhere. And then the droid comes in saying, oh, Master Fett, there's someone here to see you.
Oh yeah, but the major domo's there as well, or is that later
Yeah,
on?
he's sitting there, yeah.
Yeah. So Boba goes outside to talk to Cad Bane, who right
Yeah.
away starts taunting him about what actually happened to the Tuscan Raiders. So Boba's not really taking that news too kindly at all.
Nope. And then he drops the bomb that the people of Freetown won't be arriving because he paid Cobb Vanth a visit. And I quite like his wee line where he says he shouldn't have left him without his armor, which is mirroring his statement to Cobb Vanth when they showed down that Boba Fett shouldn't have left him without his armor.
Yeah, I made a note of that actually about that quote. I quite like that as well.
Just the way he says it as well. I think I'm gushing a bit too much at Cad Bane. But...
So Boba is basically wanting to gun down Cad Bane there and then, but then his conscience appears Fennec, and for the second time in this episode, Boba's talked down from doing what he wants to do. But I feel like, with hindsight, this one was probably a good decision.
Yeah, because Fennec comes out saying, "Don't do it. You're too emotional. Let's do it on our terms," kind of thing, which is basically a smart thing to do because Cad Bane was obviously like trying to goad him into a fight that he knew he couldn't win.
Yeah.
But Boba's adamant. He's like, I can take him.
Yeah. But then he eventually listens and lets Cad Bane go. And then
cuts off all negotiations.
Yeah, and then the obvious thing that we all saw coming happens is all the factions start to commit treason. So our good friends, the Gamorreans, rest in peace, got chucked off the cliffs, and I found that quite a sad moment. I was quite sad to see them go.
Yeah, it was quite. I like his as well. There was only so they get ambushed by 6 Clatoonians at the starport. A train pulls away, and on the other side is 6 Clatoonians with spears.
Yeah.
And they attack the Gamorrean guards and basically force them off the edge of a cliff because of their sheer numbers. But I thought the Gamorrean guards might have taken 1 or 2 of them out at least, but they seem to just accept going over the cliff rather than try and charge the spears. But that was just something I noticed. Well, not noticed, but I was quite disappointed with.
They disappear quite quickly. Big BK, what we call him in this episode?
Santo.
Santo puts up quite a good fight, but he eventually gets overpowered on the steps of the building. And I'm trying to work out, I wrote this down, I was like, what were the Trandoshans trying to do to him? It was like he was just getting one big puddle. Like, what was their end game there?
The pylon.
Yeah. So the mods also get attacked.
They're the ones that actually notice. They're the ones that start off the ambush because the lead girl mod, she calls Fennec and says something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And that's when the locals start pulling blasters. All the actualists start pulling blasters out of baskets and attacking them.
Yeah.
And then that's when we see the Gamorrean guards get ambushed. That's when we see Santo get ambushed by the Trandoshans. They're just walking past, and then they just start pulling out swords and spears out of everywhere. So they start swarming Santo with melee weapons, and Boba and Mando are quite perplexed because they thought they had a treaty, but in the end, Mando said, "Yeah, that was probably a smart decision by them."
Yeah.
And Boba reluctantly agrees.
And there's quite a cool moment where Fennec appears to the aid the mods and takes out like a big gang of the Pikes, which was quite a good moment for her.
Yeah, she tells the mods to stay put where they are because they're trapped, and the mods are like, "But why?" And then obviously Fennec snipes them, but she is actually on her way to take out the command and control of the Pikes. Earlier on in the scene at the sanctuary, when all their troops are getting attacked or ambushed, Fennec says, "Right, the only way to probably try and save this is to take out the command and control of the Pikes." So Boba lets her leave on her own to try and find them,
Yeah.
and the Twi'lek actually helps out and tells them the exact building they're holed up in, and was Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Fennec's on a side mission of her own at this point.
Which we see the resolution of at the very end of the episode.
Yeah.
So the next kind of bit I've got written down here is where unfortunately the Major Domo plays quite a big part. He basically volunteers to negotiate on behalf of Boba against Cad Bane.
Well, Cad Bane isn't in this scene.
Was it not? Who is it that he? Oh, it's just some of the Pikes, isn't it?
Yeah, because the Pikes march
Yeah.
on force on the sanctuary at this point.
Yeah. So Boba Fett basically writes down his terms on this tablet, and then the Major Domo goes out to deliver these terms. But Boba and Mando played a wee bit of a prank there.
Yeah, because the Major Domo is saying, "Oh yeah, we can get out of this if we surrender and maybe give them some money. We can run, blah 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 blah." And Boba's like, "Right, okay, I'll send a message. On you go, deliver it." And the Twi'lek is more than happy to because he thinks that they're going to get away unhurt and just through kind of a monetary exchange and groveling surrender. But yeah, he goes out, delivers the message. But before that, we forgot something.
What was that?
Before the Major Domo goes out to deliver the message, Boba and Mando have quite a nice wee moment.
Oh yeah, he basically says like, "You can go now," essentially, and he's like, "Nah, I'm staying with you." I actually wrote down that he is essentially still following the creed, even though he's been kicked out of his creed.
Yeah, it's basically his religion, isn't it? So yeah, he's going to follow it, even though that armourer who I've taken a dislike to in the last couple of weeks told him that. But yeah, they have a cool wee moment where he says, if I won't leave till we both fall," kind of thing, and they have a nice wee "this is the way" moment.
This is the way.
Yes, and
I spent the this kind of whole portion of the episode kind of hoping the Major Domo was going to get taken out, but unfortunately that didn't happen.
no, it did not. But this wee section also shows as well. Boba keeps kind of reinforcing the idea he's like a man of the people because Mando does suggest kind of rushing the Pikes before they're set up. And escaping on Boba's ship. But sorry, my dog's been a bit of a pain. And it's Mando that's been a pain, Mad Dog Mando. So
Very
yeah.
fitting.
Wait.
I feel like this next bit is where it really kicked into high gear. I feel like it was enjoyable, the episode, but once the terms have been delivered by the Major Domo and the Pikes are about to kick off, Boba and Mando fly into. I wrote Boba and Mando take flight.
Yeah. So once the Major Domo delivers Boba's sarcastic terms of surrender, basically telling the Pikes to leave or their bodies will fertilise the sands of Tatooine into a flourishing field, which I thought was a cool wee poetic way of telling them to leave.
I was thinking of you at this scene because I know you've been wanting a lot more Boba Fett action. I feel like he had a lot of great moments, badass moments in this episode.
Yeah, that's what I've actually wrote. It's like badass moment number 1. Yeah, so they're taking out dozens of pikes. They fly through, taking out dozens of pikes along this street. They land, and they're basically circling each other, covering each other's backs. We see Boba's trusty knee rockets.
Yeah, I made a note of that as well.
A couple of times, which I thought were really cool. Bizarre, but cool. So they're basically covering each other 360, taking out dozens of pikes, but it's overwhelming numbers, and they're taking as many hits as they're giving out. Luckily, the pikes can't seem to miss the Beskar armor. They're hitting the Beskar armor like straight on all the time. And then you can see them kind of getting desperate, the Mandalorians, because Mando starts using his whistling birds. Boba's using his wrist rocket to try and turn the tide, but they're taking hits. They're getting knocked to the ground because they're getting sniped and rushed from all these different pikes. And then things are looking grim. They're getting absolutely swamped. They're getting hit to the ground. They try to cover each other with their armor, but it's kind of looking a bit, I was saying, very grim for them. And then the saviors appear.
Yeah, the Freetown army appear riding some kind of skiff. Would it be, or just kind of desert transport?
I thought it was just kind of like a wee kind of armored speeder kind of thing.
Yeah, and they kind of rally around Boba and Mando and kind of save him. And then we see Black Chrysanthemum appearing back, very badly injured, and he does get shot quite a few more times as he's kind of making his way back to the rescuing army. Something I noted in this scene was that, particularly in this episode, Boba suddenly seems to have a lot of affection for the Wookiee, and he seems really genuinely concerned about his well-being.
Yeah, well, I think throughout the whole thing, I don't actually. I thought he kind of quite liked Black Chrysanthemum just because I think did he know him before that episode, didn't he?
Yeah, they work. Oh, in the comics, they've worked together before. Whether they are considered canon in this Mandoverse, I love that phrase, is another thing.
Yeah, but I thought that scene Black Chrysanthemum was going to be a goner because he's running down
I
the
didn't
street.
think they were going to kill him off because I think for me, I didn't want him to go. Like I was like, nah, they need to keep him. He's got more appearances to come in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, that's the exact same way I thought. But this series, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, so it looks like they're kind of got a bit of respite, but then I think Mando does a wee bit of scoping, and suddenly some large, very droidical-looking robots appear.
Yeah, but before that as well, the mods showed up as well.
Yeah, so everyone's kind of in the
Yeah,
same place. So
and also sorry, I was just going to say as well, Mando says to the Freetown bartender that's turned up to help him as well. He says like, sorry about the marshal, and the bartender's really sad, saying he got gunned down in cold blood. You can tell Mando.
Strangely, it doesn't mention that he's not dead, unless he thinks he is, which I wouldn't think he would think he was.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird line, but
I've got the name of the wee quay barman. I found it in the episode. Tanti.
oh yeah, they say it and when they're
Yeah,
standing off, but
yeah.
yeah. So we'll crack on now. So
The big droidicas arrive. I read or I heard or read somewhere that they are like a different version of the droidicas. So I think they are like in the same kind of robot family.
yeah, it does look like kind of next generation beefed up droidica, doesn't it?
Very powerful, really strong shields, and they, as the episode goes on, they do take quite a lot of beating.
Yeah, it's crazy how much of a pounding these things can take. I've wrote down like, a few things, and it's like so like blasters are ineffective against their shields. Cycler rifles are ineffective against their shields.
Yeah,
Boba uses his jetpack rocket on it. Does absolutely nothing. There's a wee bit of tension where he thinks he might have destroyed it, but they come through the smoke just absolutely unscathed.
yeah.
So at this point, Mando and Boba decide to try and distract him and formulate a plan whilst everybody else runs.
Yeah.
And like nothing they can do is phasing it. Mando's using his flamethrower and his dark saber to try and get through shields, and he's just bouncing off.
I felt the dark saber was very underutilized in this episode. Do you think it's maybe because he's been struggling to use it properly?
I think so, and I think it's maybe just maybe it's going to be a showcase in season 3 Mandalorian. They don't want to kind of use it up too much
Yeah.
too early.
So Boba basically makes a comment like reinforcements or something, but he doesn't really make it clear who he was thinking of. I will get to that obviously later. We find out who it is, but I basically forgot about who his reinforcements were until they arrived. But that made their arrival so much better. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, me too. So I was like,
I
"Where's
don't know
he?"
why I forgot about them, but I literally did.
Yeah, me. The exact same thing happened to me. I think I just got caught up in the moment and totally forgot that
Well,
they existed.
we can discuss that a bit further when we get to it. I've wrote down
Yeah.
here Grogu with Peli Moto. So the Warriors are basically kind of hemmed in at this stage. Is that the bit where they kind of hide behind the wall?
Well, they're getting chased. Both Mando's getting chased by one, and the friendly troops, are getting chased by one as well. And that's when Mando runs in to Crazy Mechanic Lady.
Yeah. So Peli Moto, or the crazy mechanic lady, is on basically a space rickshaw and basically bumps into Mando, who kind of jumps onto the back of it. We know as the audience that Grogu is there somewhere, but Mando doesn't at first. But it was a really nice, but also kind of concerning moment when Mando and Grogu were reunited finally.
Yeah, because Mando's just dead surprised. It's like, "Whoa, what are you doing here?" And it turns into it goes super cute mode where Grogu springs into his arms.
And he shows him his armor.
Yeah, he sees the shirt and he's like, "Oh, you got the shirt."
You got the shirt. It seemed weird that you called it the shirt.
Yeah,
So I don't know about you. Like I knew Mando and Grogu weren't going to come to any mortal peril in this episode, but I felt really anxious Grogu being on in amongst all this. I was like, just like put him away. Because at one point Mando puts him down, but he only puts him in the doorway. I was like, see, if I was Grogu's dad, I'd be like going into that building and putting him as far away as possible.
yeah.
Not just leaving him at the doorway.
And see when as well. So when they're getting chased by the droid, and see the rickshaw droid.
Yeah.
See when it like flipped over.
Right.
Was that because it got hit by a blaster from the droid, or was that because Grogu was doing something? Because it looked like Grogu was like doing something to its head and it exploded.
I'm not sure. I need to watch that bit again. I just remembered a wee moment. You had like my meta moments.
Yes.
Peli Mo I forgot the name now. Pelimoto at one point says Grogu. That's a terrible name, and I think that's like a nod to the fandom when Grogu got a name, and it like some people liked it, some people hated it. I felt that was quite a meta moment.
All right, I didn't. I did hear that, but I didn't really think much of it, to be honest.
I'll be the meta guy.
Yeah, you keep
I'll be
tabs
my
in the middle.
role. So we're obviously the Dream Team have been reunited, but things are still looking quite bleak with the Droidica droids. But then probably the most awesome moment in the whole series happens. And Paul, what was your reaction when Boba made his reappearance with his reinforcement?
I don't think I can express it since this is a family show, but I was like, "Oh my god!"
There was quite a lot of nods. So obviously, for those listening, and we're not actually saying what it was, Boba arrives on his pet Rancor, which at first I was a bit like, one, I'd forgotten about it, don't know how, but also I was like, I wish they'd, at first I was like, I wish they'd built up the Rancor a bit more, showed them interacting with it more, training. But I think it actually did its job. See the fact I forgot about it. I think that's actually what made it so much better. See if they'd built it up a bit more, I feel like it wouldn't have been as impactful.
Yeah, you'd have seen it coming a mile off, like, "Oh,
Yeah,
he's just
because
going to use this too."
I totally blanked on it.
Yeah, me too. I think it's like I was saying, I got just caught up in the episode and totally
Yeah.
forgot about the Rancor. But it was just the way you hear the roar in the distance, and then you hear the thud, thud,
Yeah,
thud, the footsteps. I thought it was very Jurassic Park.
yeah, that's a bit. There's quite a few nods. It made me think a wee bit of like the dragons in Game of Thrones. But sorry,
How so?
we're not supposed to talk about them. Just like I don't know, just them like climbing on top of buildings and stuff. But there was
Yeah,
obviously there was a couple more movie really obvious nods to popular culture here.
yeah. As well in this scene. I love the music in the scene. Like, it had a kind of ominous tone to it,
Yeah,
and it's quite dramatic. You see him, you see the Rancor just appear over the rooftop. You see his claws come over, and you're like, "Oh yeah, this this is it."
yeah. So obviously there's wee nods to obviously King Kong, but also kind of Godzilla as well.
Yeah, yeah. There's those vibes as well. Yeah, when he, uh, oh, later on, you get a King Kong vibe, and but there was a Godzilla vibe as well when he's kind of trampling through the streets.
So then Rancor's in full flow, but then Cad Bane makes his return, and it turns out Cad Bane has kind of wrist rockets too,
Wrist
and
rocket.
or kind of fire out his wrists. I don't know.
I think you call him flamethrowers, Colin.
Yeah, flamethrowers out his wrists anyway. And it turns out the Rancors aren't big fans of fire.
Yeah, it turns out Baby Rancor is scared of fire, and he knocks Boba off, and runs away. Bearing in mind, this is after him taking out two of the Scorpion droids. He's been getting hit by blasters. He's been getting
Yeah,
scratched to bits off their legs.
they're quite
Uh,
robust. The Rancors, aren't they?
yeah, but a wee bit of fire, and he's Oski.
Yeah, there was a couple of they had to kind of get him out of the scene for the final Cad Bane and Boba Fett showdown. There was a couple of quotes I made a note of here. I really liked Boba's line, "I'm not a little boy anymore," because Cad Bane actually meets Boba when he's like basically Daniel Logan young with Boba, and Boba kind of works for him. Cad Bane's basically his mentor in the Clone Wars when
Yeah,
he's a wee guy. So I quite like that line linking back to that, and I also like the one about the your father's blood pumping through your veins. So Jango Fett got a proper reference in this episode as well.
yeah. It was. I like I said, I haven't seen the Clone Wars, so but I'd kind of
I think
done a
you
wee
need
bit
to.
of research and seen that Cad had mentored Boba, and was there not is that a lost episode or something where you see
Yeah.
Boba
So
get his dent in his
apparently,
helmet?
yeah, apparently that's where Boba got the dent in his helmet. Was from
Yeah,
that.
I think you mentioned that last week. Yeah,
So we've had the wee liners, and then they get into a fight. Cad has basically got the upper hand on Boba. Guns him down a couple of times.
yeah, he's much quicker on the draw. and manages to overpower Boba. Boba still has a wee bit of fight in him, saying,
I like though,
"This is
and I
my
think
city."
yeah, I liked that even though he was getting shot down, he was getting up and he was really passionate in this episode and kind of wasn't up for kind of laying down.
Yeah. See, this is what I wanted. This whole series was just to
But do you
him.
not think in a way it's better that you had to wait for it?
No.
I quite like that he saved his best for like the last episode. So basically, looks like Boba's basically about to get killed by Cad. He basically shuts his eyes for a
Yeah, because
second, and you think he's just
rips his helmet off.
accepting it. But
Because Cad
then,
rips his helmet off.
yeah, and then out of nowhere, he whips out the gaffy stick and knocks Cad Bane to the ground.
Yep. And at first, I didn't even realise he had his gaffy stick on him. I think I messaged you after I watched it. I was like, where did this gaffy stick come from? But
Yeah.
I had to rewatch it, and it turns out he actually had it the whole time when he was riding the Rancor. So that just shows how observant I was.
We got a mention of the Tuscany Raiders. We thought maybe one or two of the Tuscany Raiders might have came back, but I feel like it made the first two episodes worthwhile that he basically defeated Cad by using his Tuscan weapon and skills.
Yeah, it does. It does show that he's kind of sticking to his kind of roots from the beginning of the show, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I did like that moment.
So
but
Boba's got the upper hand, and Cad makes a comment about like you're a killer essentially.
Always knew you were a killer.
Yeah, and then he plunges him with the gaffy stick. I've seen quite a few internet theories because there's like a flashing light on Cad. I think quite a few people think he's not dead because if Black Chrysanthemum can survive his ordeals and Cobb Van can survive getting shot by Cad Bane, I don't know if we have seen the end of Cad Bane. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Well, I hope not, because like I said, I find him a really cool character and really intriguing.
You're
so I hope he's not
fanboying
dead.
quite a bit there.
What's that? Sorry.
You're fanboying quite a bit over Cad.
I don't know. He just got this aura of coolness. I don't know.
I think we need to arrange a wee night and watch some of the key Clone Wars episodes.
But
So
it doesn't look as intimidating in the cartoons as he does in live action. I don't think.
All your excuses. So I also noted down here that Boba is quite emotional once he takes out Cad. I don't know if it was maybe what Cad was saying to him, or just maybe relief, or maybe just doesn't like killing people at this stage. It was quite emotional.
Yeah, I think it was just maybe the anger of everything he's been through with Cad, and it finally kind of been over.
Yeah. So you kind of feel like the episode should be over at that point, but there's still some loose ends to tie up. Well, one quite big loose end, which is a really good sequence of events.
Yeah, a rampaging Rancor through the streets.
Yeah, so the Rancor's kind of gone a bit off the rails after getting shot by the fire, and basically all the kind of Freetown folk and the locals start shooting at the Rancor, which is obviously making it a bit mad. So there's a couple of our favorite characters makes a few attempts here to soothe the Rancor.
Yeah, so Mando jetpacks up and attempts to ride the Rancor, and the whole time I was thinking, I was like, he better not be able to do this because it would just make Boba being able to do it like just less of an achievement kind of thing. Yeah. And if Mando can do it straight away, then it just makes him like Rey out as the sequel trilogy, just amazing at everything first time.
Just a wee aside, surely they must develop a PS5 game around like Mandalorian, Boba Fett kind of stuff. Like, why would you not? Sorry, that's a totally another video, but do you agree?
I would play that game.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Anyway, that's a total aside. We can maybe talk about that another time. So yeah. Mando's kind of on the Rancor's back.
Yeah, gets pulled off and thrown about, ragdolled, crushed through a couple of buildings. The Rancor tries to bite his head off, but can't get through the Beskar armor. And then he gets thrown, I think, through a wall, and he's incapacitated. And the Rancor goes in for the kill, but young Mr. Grogu has different ideas.
Yeah, so Grogu comes out, uses his force powers. Actually, Grogu uses his force powers earlier in the episode to take part of the droider part, which we kind of forgot to mention, but there was a lot in this episode. He basically, no way about it, puts the Rancor into a deep slumber, a wee bit like in spoilers for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone when they make the three-headed dog go to sleep. Not quite as cool as that though. The best part, one of the best parts of the episode, I don't agree with Grogu being there in general, because I think, as we said, that should maybe come later on. But see when the Rancor goes to sleep and then Grogu curls up beside it like a wee like a wee kitten. That bit was pretty cool.
Yeah, another cuteness overload moment.
Yes, I think Grogu's making you soft.
Well, this whole series has made me soft.
Yes. So that kind of ties up that bit. Then we see the kind of leader, the faction leaders, in yet another meeting. But
Yeah,
the meeting doesn't quite go as planned.
Yeah, the agenda was interrupted. So basically, the Pikes are withdrawn from Mos Espa. They've been defeated by Boba and his troops, and the Pike leader is going to leave. And the other crime families, the Clatoonians, the Trandoshans, and the mayor as well, he's still there.
Mokshays.
Mokshays. They're all there having a meeting, and the Pikes are basically saying they're going to leave, and the crime families are basically cacking themselves because they feel like the Pikes can't leave now because they've lost loads of men, and the Pikes say they've lost loads of men, and it's just not worth it kind of staying. At which point, you hear a couple of blaster shots, and everybody in the compound goes to high alert, and then Fennec starts taking them out one by one.
It got a bit brutal. The mayor actually got hung in that scene, which was quite extreme for Disney Plus, I maybe say.
You don't see it though. You don't see the bottom half dangling
Yeah.
about. So
I think it's very fitting to Fennec's character to do the assassinations here. Part of me was like, should it have been Boba? But I feel like, I don't know, Boba had quite a few cool moments in this episode, so maybe it was okay for it to be Fennec. Part of me was like, it would have been pretty cool if it was Boba, but it may have went against his character a wee bit in this series.
Yeah, she took out, maybe if she'd left one alive, maybe the mayor or something, and maybe had a public execution or something, that might have been something. But like, I think the way Boba won his victory, I think was fitting. I think it actually turned out quite well, the episode itself.
So something that we didn't mention near the start, the mayor didn't actually sign off on the bombing of the sanctuary. So the mayor's maybe not as bad as some of the other ones.
He's bad by association.
He seemed quite regretful about that occurrence. I'm sad that the sanctuary's gone. It was a really cool set. I really liked the vibe.
Yeah, but it can be rebuilt.
Yeah. So
which is what most of the townspeople were doing in the end up.
Yeah. After the assassination, you basically see Boba and Fennec walking around and getting the kind of the acclaim of the locals.
Yeah, they're actually getting the respect that they finally deserve now. Everybody's
used to rule with fear. I am to rule with respect.
That was a terrible accent.
Was that an accent? So Boba doesn't really like getting bowed to. To be honest, they don't really seem to be really enjoying the resolution. It kind of feels like to me like they don't really want to do the job anymore. That was the kind of vibe that I got.
Yeah, they won and they want another challenge.
There was a quote, something about if not us, then who? And we'll come back to that because it relates to something that happens right at the end of the episode. A wee Easter egg, the melons they keep getting.
Yes.
I mean, I think I mentioned this in a previous review. They're actually called, it's like Melurons, they call them. And they were actually made famous in Star Wars Rebels on the main planet and that. And they come up quite a lot in Star Wars Rebels, so that's a bit of a Rebels gag.
I think you did mention that in a previous episode.
Yeah. I think I didn't remember the name at the time, so I've done my research this time. So that ends. There is basically one more. I think there's one more scene in space, and then it's the after credit one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a wee closing scene of our favourite duo, Mando and Grogu, flying in their pimped out Naboo starfighter. And we see Grogu in the, was it a hollowed out droid?
Yeah, it's where the R2 unit would essentially go.
Yeah, which we always knew was for Grogu. We always knew he was going to end up there, so it wasn't a surprise he was there.
Yeah.
But he got the wee ball off Mando that he salvaged from his old ship that he used to play with.
Yeah,
And
he was given that back at one point during the episode.
Yeah. So he's tapping away in the glass, and Mando's like, no. Taps away some more. He's like, Taps away. Nope. And then he just starts rattling. He's like, "Da-da-da-da-da-da-da." And Mando's like, okay, just one last time. And then you see him reaching for his wee boost button, and away they go.
Straight into season 3.
Straight into season 3. Grogu's loving it, going. Wah!
So that's that. There is a kind of mid-credit scene, and earlier on, Boba made a comment that the Bacta tank was in use, and because they talked about Black Chrysanthemum going in it earlier, that was what we were made to believe, but it wasn't actually Big BK that was in the Bacta tank.
Yeah, Big Santo actually turns up at the end after Boba says the Bacta tank's in use.
Yeah.
And we see our favourite Marshal.
Took me a while to work out who it was, and then when I saw the grey hair, I just kind of deduced.
Yes, the Silver Fox himself.
Yes.
Cobb Vanth is still alive in the Bacta tank. And does he even have a title in this? Is it? What is his name?
He's like the mod artist. He's basically
the mod artist that's Fennec.
Space tattoo artist. It's nice to see that we moments like that. He was only in like one scene. It's nice to see that they came back and have like a larger purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but I feel like. Oh, sorry, on you go.
Sorry. So going back to what I was saying a wee minute ago, just about if not us, then who? Directly after that, they spoke about the Bacta tank being in use. I think they're maybe lining up Cobb Vanth to rule Tatooine. That's my prediction.
I don't know if you'd like that. I don't know if you would do that.
That's just a thought. It was just the way they played it in the episode. Like,
don't get me wrong. I'd vote for him as a stand-up fellow. I'd vote for him
when it was mentioned. So, do you think we maybe save our overall thoughts on the season to next week and keep our listeners on edge? So when we're doing our ranking, we can maybe do that.
I don't know. I think next week we should just focus maybe on the rankings, and I think it's fair to give a kind of overall assessment, a miniature overall assessment. But
just since I made the effort to type things up, can I just very quickly share just a couple of wee Easter eggs or things I found, and then we could do a wee overall thoughts before we finish up?
On you go, son.
Right, so I just made a few notes, and I'll just see what ones. One thing I wrote was, I still don't like the Major Domo or the mods. That was something I wrote. They do still feel very out of place.
That was quite funny because I still hate the Major Domo, but in this episode I actually kind of warmed up to the mods.
It's still the
I don't know why.
I don't know. It's still the bikes. They just seem very out of place.
But
there was
I'm glad one of the bikes bit of dust. There's only a few more bikes to go.
Yeah. There was a cool scene where there was a mix of droids from different eras at Pelgo's scrapyard. So there was a pet droid from the prequels. There was R5, which is the actual R5 from A New Hope that had a bad motivator. And then there's R2D2, obviously, is in that scene. And there's also the droid from the Fallen Order. So it was like there was a cool wee mix of different droids from different eras there.
Oh yeah, because there was quite a lot going on. That I didn't realise there was so many.
Yeah, they're all kind of looking at it. Well, there's a really cool scene where the Rancors holding up like the land speeder, like the same model Luke has in A New Hope. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, chewed on it and then threw it away.
Yeah. Other things I wrote, I didn't want Pelimoto or Black Chrysanthemum to die. I actually, sometimes when characters are in mortal peril, that's when I realise if I like them or not. I didn't want Pelimoto to die, so I kind of I noticed that. The big droid, the droidica droid, I think I wrote down it's Scorpanel droid. It's actually like mentioned in the episode.
I think it was Scorp. What did I wrote down something?
Maybe I couldn't quite read my writing.
I think it was Scorpionic. I think it was Scorpionic.
Scorpionic, or yes, very close to that. Another wee quote I noticed: "Force works in mysterious ways." I don't know if that's a direct quote somebody else has used before, but similar things. There's a "do it" quote. I can't
Oh, yeah.
remember what character says it, but somebody says "do it,"
Boba.
which is pretty cool.
It tells the Rancor to do it, and he rips apart a droid.
Yeah, there was a bit. I wrote the kind of Rancors. Do you know how they made a big deal about them being raised to fight? I feel like that's exactly what Boba used it for. So it was a wee bit contradictory, obviously, because they were trying to like humanize the Rancors a wee bit more. There was a bit where the Rancor tore an arm out the socket. I think it was the droid's arm, which is a wee bit like the Wookiee in the previous episode. There was a Wilhelm scream at one point, I noticed.
Oh, I was going to see if you noticed that or not.
Yeah. There was I'm sure there was I wrote down, I think it was a gonk droid at one point. There was a bit, I think it was Cad Bane that said it. He said, "You know it's true." I felt that was a wee bit like a Vader reference, remember? Like, you know it to be true.
Oh yeah, when he tells them
Yeah.
about the Tuscans. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wee bit I thought there. The Major Domo was educated on Coruscant. That was something that he mentioned. And he also mentions a place called Obadiah. It makes me think of Obadiah Springfield from The Simpsons. But I'm not sure if I've seen that before.
Is that not the Pike? Something to do with the Pike's homeworld or something? Because
It might be, because it did sound familiar.
yeah.
And something that our good friend, we'll give him a wee shout out, our subscriber to our channel, Andrew Strachan, pointed out as well that one of the mods did a really weird spin at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see it?
I did notice that. I was like, that's so flashy for the sake of being flashy.
Yeah. So that was just a couple of things that I'd picked out, and we're getting a wee bit more professional here at Seismic Cinema, just making a few notes, although I had to transcribe them because I can't read my own writing, which isn't as good. So, Paul, just before we finish up and conclude this episode, a wee bit longer than last week, but there was a lot in this episode, so I think we can be forgiven. You were quite a critic of this show for the first 4 episodes, and I too have had my issues with it. But has the finale saved the season, and has it left you with an overall positive view of the show? That's the question I want to ask you.
It's a hard one because the first 4 episodes, I feel like as time went on, I just hated it more and more. And I was waiting for something to happen and nothing was happening. The last 3 episodes might have saved it, but it's hard to say because 2 of the episodes were basically The Mandalorian. So we basically 1 episode of Boba Fett. Yeah. 1 out of 5. Is that enough to redeem a show? I don't know. If I'm taking it episode by episode, I love this episode, but the overall series, I feel could have done a lot better. So probably not. I probably wouldn't say the series has been redeemed, but it's ended on a high. And if they have a season 2 or whatever may come, and they carry on with the same kind of pace and the same kind of direction that we had in this final episode, then I'll have no problems at all.
I'm similar. Like, obviously, I think I probably enjoyed the first few more than you, but I did have quite a lot of issues with the fact that as much as I love Mando, he stole the show, and the kind of momentum that was getting built went away. I think the last episode brought a lot of that back together, but I still feel like the structural choices in terms of having those 2 episodes, as great as they were, did kind of maybe make it seem. I don't think the finale was rushed, but just there wasn't as much build up as there could have been. So my ranking numbers wise, I said this to a friend yesterday, I would probably give this season a 7 out of 10 because I think there was so many good bits and I thought the finale was really good. And I did like, personally, quite a lot of the build up. I feel like if they hadn't sidelined Boba as much and if they had built up maybe the villains a bit more, etc., I feel like it could have been a lot higher, but I feel like 7, I don't think it's as bad as a 6. I don't think it's as high as an 8. I'm quite comfortable with a 7 for my rating.
So for mine, I'd probably say a high 6. I'd probably say a high 6.
So
But I just feel
we're not far off really there.
Yeah, because like this last episode, like standalone, I'd probably put it as a 10 because like from start to finish, I absolutely loved it. Didn't really have any gripes about it. And everyone got their kind of wee moments, their wee hero moments and stuff like that. And I felt like it was a satisfying end. But like the first 4 episodes were just a really big drag for me. I don't mind kind of story and character development, but I just felt like nobody was really doing anything other than Fennec. She was the only one kind of doing anything that was worthwhile or any action. So one episode out of 5 for me. That's why it's getting a high 6. That 10 at the end, and if, like you're saying about the Mandalorian, the 2 episodes in the middle, the weird kind of structure. So I don't know. It feels like whoever, like when they were making it, they didn't have enough faith on Boba Fett, his actual story, carrying it themselves. So they had to bring in the Mandalorian just to kind of shore it up.
Be interesting to see if we hear anything from Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni on the kind of creation of the show because they've done those Mandalorian kind of
behind the scenes,
which I quite enjoyed. Right, I think we've done over an hour there, so I think we start to draw this to a close. So next Thursday, we're going to be joined by Daniel, our creative consultant, and we're going to rank the 7 chapters of the Book of Boba Fett. So we're going to do it independently, come together, compare notes, and just have a kind of general discussion on all things Book of Boba Fett. So just before we finish off, just want to remind you that we are on Facebook as Seismic Cinema. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we also have a fancy new YouTube account where we've uploaded our first free podcast, and we'll also upload the one we're on today. We've also grown in terms of the podcast stations that we're on. So we were on Anchor and Spotify already. We then got onto Apple Podcasts, and now we're also on Google Podcasts. So we're actually moving up in a world in terms of YouTube and Google Podcasts, and we're also on Good Pods as well.
Yep, number 6 in was it indie TV reviews.
You can't beat that kind of success. So 4 episodes in, I actually got through a whole podcast without calling this a video, I think, and talking about our viewers. It's obviously listeners. So just to finish off, we're Seismic Cinema. We believe in the power of escapism. We hope this podcast helped you escape reality for a wee bit, and we're looking forward to hearing from you next week.
Yep. Just echoing what Colin's saying, and hope everyone has a good one.